Paul Henry.
All right, Labour is being slammed by the Asian community by some in the Asian community following its controversial analysis, if you can call it that, of Auckland home ownership based on Chinese-sounding surnames. It sparked a nationwide debate on racism, and longtime party member Phil Quin has quit the Labour Party in disgust. RadioLIVE's political reporter Lloyd Burr joins me now from Parliament. Lloyd, good morning.
Good morning, Paul.
I think Labour can survive one long-time member quitting, can't they?
Yeah, well, he's not just he's not just a long-time member. He was a former staffer. He ran for the Labour Party in Porirua, I think, in 1989 as a councillor. So he's he's got, roots in the Labour Party. He was a researcher and staffer for, I think, the 1990 election, the 93 and the 96 election. He advised Phil Goff, I think, as well.
That didn't go well, did it? That didn't go well. That was diabolical. They can do without him, surely. How exactly. Well do you think Andrew Little is handling this? Because he's fronting it now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that they would have thought that the fallout of this would be going for so long. I mean, this is day 5, nearly day 6 into this. And I think that, he's probably starting to get a bit frustrated. I know that his media team's getting a bit frustrated. Yesterday, I got a phone call from one of his spin doctors telling me that we should stop calling it the anti-Chinese housing policy, because it's not. But when you look at this, I mean, this was really calculated from Labour. They colluded with the Herald. They were on the Nation. And Phil Twyford came along and he really did focus on Chinese, the 9% population versus the 40% buying houses. So this really was targeted at Chinese, and it's really causing a whole lot of backlash right across the country.
Well, colluding with the Herald is always a bad thing. You lie with dogs, you're going to wake up with fleas. All right, let's talk Bill English now. Should we be worried that our Minister of Finance is in China for the second time in 3 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, he's calling this a long-planned trip. He said that this has been in the pipeline for a long time. But, yeah, I think we should be worried. He usually has around 4 overseas trips as finance minister a year, and this is the second he's had in 3 weeks. So, yeah, I think we should be pretty worried. He's doing a tour of the western provinces and checking out, Chengdu, and I think there's a Fonterra startup dairy farm that he's checking out. But one of the main reasons he's there, I think, is to get, the press release said he's getting an on-the-ground feel for what's happening with China's economy. I mean, it really is going to affect New Zealand. Economists for ages have been worried about New Zealand's reliance on China. So he really, he's over there checking it out really to see what effect it's going to have.
And the double whammy, of course, is dairy prices at a low, and probably for years to come yet. And we've got another auction tomorrow, so we'll talk about that tomorrow. Finally, John Banks. I've just had him in the studio. Let's not talk about Banks himself, but Chris Finlayson clearing Crown Law. It's just extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think Banks called it an inquiry when he talked to you. It wasn't an inquiry. Chris Finlayson didn't, launch an inquiry. It wasn't independent. He would have just sat up on his desk in the beehive there with a highlighter and a red pen and gone through all of the case notes and then determined, using his own legal mind that everything was fine. So this wasn't an inquiry.
And Banks was promised a full inquiry.
He was, and there should really be one. So I'm not too sure how Banks is going to go now, how he's going to fight this, if he's going to take the Crown Law to court, or how it's going to work.
Well, the first thing he's going to want, obviously, is compensation for costs, I would think. So that's his next stage now, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to him yesterday about compensation. He said he didn't want compensation, but just talking, listening to him
in terms of costs,
earlier on your show,
I think,
he said he did.
Yeah.
So
he wants revenge, is what he wants, Lloyd. He wants revenge.
Yeah. He wants revenge, yeah, he does, yeah.
It's Banks against the world, and I guarantee it'll end up Banks 1, world 0. All right, Lloyd, thank you. Lloyd Burr, Radio Live political reporter in Parliament, which is where you keep your political reporters.